Welcome to Pause It Play It. I'm Josh.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Dan.
And lockdown.
I wish I was at school so I didn't have to be in lockdown.
Retrain to be a teacher.
Oh, God, no.
Or
Leave it the construction world.
Yeah, I am getting out at least, but I'm like, I'll follow the rules if they're like proper. Do you know what I mean? Lock it down, mate. Shut everything like you did in fucking March. And I think they should have gone further and only let you go shopping on a particular day, if it like works with your last name. A to E, you can go shopping on a Monday. Do you know what I mean? And so on and so forth. Lock it down proper.
Danny Shaw 9E for PM.
Do you know what? That thing about the surnames, that is actually a really good idea. Although the problem is, Dad, the British public
Yeah.
who will not do that.
No, you have to get ID'd or they don't let you into Lidl. Not in Bargain Booze, though. They're not interested.
Oh, God.
Where else do you need to go?
Oh, Bargain Booze, it's absolutely rubbish. It's like a meme of a shop. It's like they've designed this shop to see how much can we try and fuck this guy before he goes somewhere else. Really? Like, you got a Mars bar. Yeah, you can have one the size of a Celebration chocolate, or you can have like a triple duplex. And I'm like, just want a Mars bar, mate. Come on.
Is that a back scratcher or a butt scratcher?
Yeah, it's a motherfucking back scratcher. We on Christmas Day we do pound shop prizes. So like rather than spending like £20 on everyone brings like a couple of pound shop prizes and they go in like a raffle. And I like wanted this. This had so much value attributed to it on a Christmas Day, and now it just chills in this room. But it is the one.
Pretty decent. So this is a great game if you're doing like a long road journey or whatever. Ollie's the creator of this game. So when you pull up to a petrol station, you give the person an amount and you say, right, buy the weirdest thing you can with that amount. So obviously not like astronomical, but it's like, right, you've got £2. Buy the weirdest thing you can find in that shop for £2.
Yes.
Does it have to be like within a 10% margin, or it could be 50p, but you've got up to £2?
I would say if there was a graph, I would say the higher quality the product, the further away you can deviate from the initial the price limit, if you see what I mean.
Right, okay, yeah, I understand.
So if there was something fantastic there for 50p, which would be 25% of the price limit, then I think that would be fine.
Yeah, quick maths.
Where was the last time? God, it was 2 weeks ago. Oh, yes.
There we go, yes. Just for those that can't see at home, which is everyone, I'm just holding up my Sony Bluetooth speaker, which I am very much in love with.
But if you do want to see what me and you look like, at least,
yeah,
we're on YouTube.
Yes, we are.
So
what?
This is what we've been up to this week. Me and Matt have made our first podcast appearance that isn't this podcast.
Yeah, we have.
First guest star appearance on the Name 3 Songs podcast.
Yes.
And it was great.
It was. If anything, I was holding back. I was very conscious of time, thinking, I've not had my tea yet, but I've got so much more I could say, and I think they're probably getting sick of us. Like, Jesus, These two don't show up.
So we're on as official 1975 representatives.
Yeah, we are. We've reached official Stan status now.
We have.
Recognised by
recognised.
other podcasts.
Yes, exactly.
We are, Matt, me and thee, are going to be appearing on the Name 3 Songs podcast. And listeners, you can watch it on 6th of December. It's out.
Whoop.
Where we're talking, we're mainly talking about the 1975, like we say as official 1975 commentators.
Your special subject.
We're pundits, aren't we?
We are, yeah. Talking
It's
bollocks.
like when some like random team play in the FA Cup and they get one of the ex-pros in. That's like me and Matt.
Oh, no, I've just seen it, right? Talking Heads at Christmas. Top 100 1975 songs. 20 years' time, we'll be on there.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Give that Channel 5.
Yeah,
Like-
100%.
Like one of those ones where they get the groupies of the Beatles from back in the 60s on, oh, Paul, he had a lovely touch.
And then if that wasn't enough, stick around for the end of this episode where we will be playing our interview with Jenna and Sarah from Name 3 Songs.
Yeah.
Where,
Nice
what did
girls.
we talk about? How they got into making a podcast, like how they first discovered the 1975 because they're fans as well. And then like they had some like great stories just about music in general.
Yeah, they did.
Because they were, but I don't want to give much away, but they've worked in the industry, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the stuff was like fascinating.
Yeah, and Jenna's favourite member of One Direction is Harry Styles.
Well, so's mine.
Yeah, exactly. Approved.
Well, and that's not the only one.
No, it's not. But also, we got a big up to Roy.
Saddest Night Out podcast.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Give that a listen.
Big shout out to him. So he's left a big old review for us over on Apple Podcasts, which I said I'd read them all out. But God, it's poetry what he's written, isn't it?
Well, thank you for your kind words, Roy.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and he's done a podcast episode as well about his favourite podcast, and we feature in there and he talks about us.
Yes.
And
Made
also, massive Block Party fan.
Yeah. I know you've listened to it as well, but to be honest, I need to finish listening to it, but I was listening to his take on Silent Alarm, and it brought it all back to me. I was like, yes, This guy gets it. He is echoing exactly my feelings, and I've never met the guy.
So what? So we haven't recorded in 2 weeks properly, have we? What's new? What's going on?
No, great deal.
Lockdown.
Lockdown.
I'm back running. Just crazy things to my testosterone. I feel manly.
We turned up with a beard and a big receding hairline this week, Dan. Testosterone's all over the place.
Sprints. It's the way forward.
Oh my God, you know what it is? Oh, I've just realised. It's the return of the Daily Boris.
Daily Boris.
Yes,
Daily
it is.
Boris.
So, for those of you who not know, which one of you even coined the term Daily Boris?
It was done.
So, in lockdown one of the rules was that you're allowed one exercise per day. And it was the only time anyone ever went outside during lockdown 1. And because it was Boris mandated, it was the Daily Boris.
Daily Boris. Loved it.
And then I was talking to someone and I was just like going on, not even thinking, I just used the term Daily Boris. And they were like, what was that? What do you mean? And I had to explain.
How can you not know what a Daily Boris is?
I was thinking to myself the other day that if I ever get a dog, and hopefully I will, rather than like going, oh, walkies, walkies, I'll just be like, yeah, Boris. And it'll know that Boris means we're going for a walk.
I can see the Wikipedia page in 100 years when it's fully established into the language.
Yeah.
During the coronavirus pandemic of 2020, the then Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson, allowed one piece of exercise per day per person.
We should get it on Urban Dictionary, Daily Boris.
Yeah. Also, the embellishment of a Daily Boris is when you go for a run, which is a Turbo Boris.
Nice.
Which I don't think I'll be able to do this any justice. It was just one of those moments. But when I used to go for a daily walk, Boris, I used to see this guy every time along the canal. He used to have a bit of a grey mullet and glasses. And I'd always see him in these stonewashed denim going for his walk. I thought, nice one, he's going for a Daily Boris. Then one day, I saw him doing a Turbo Boris. That's the only way I could describe it. It wasn't quite a run, but it definitely wasn't a walk. But he was still in his stonewashed denim. And when he noticed me clocking him, he just started walking again like he wasn't running. So,
this story's reminded me of that time we were in the Red Lion, a local pub for local people, and that guy there, he's called Colin, and he's chatting to us, and he sees you, and he goes, "Oh, Matthew, you okay, Matthew? Matthew, you look like sort of a guy who knows where I can get some weed at this time."
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Colin, but I've only ever been gifted marijuana. I've never bought it.
The funniest thing I thought about that is that you don't look like the sort of guy that knows where to get weed.
He's a character, him. I remember when seeing him on the train platform. And it's like, oh, you're right. He's a dead friendly guy, isn't he? It's like, got this tray of chips. And he's like, oh, do you want a chip? I'm like, no, I'm all right, thanks, Colin. He's like, can't believe someone threw these away.
That's like off a sitcom, that. That's top.
It's great.
He's
That's great
either
joke, right?
fucking hilarious and he's like setting that up as a joke, or he's actually taking him out of a bin, and I think he's probably taking him out of a bin. You know what I have been doing actually, and this is only since last night? I downloaded an app called Who Sampled, right? And it was £4. I thought, do I really want to be paying for an app when all this information is on the World Wide Web for free? I'm like, yeah, I do actually, because, you know, user experience and that.
Right.
And it's well good. Well, it is to me, and just if you like geeking out on samples of music and stuff. So, Frontier Psychiatrist, for example, you search that in your app, and it says contains samples of 23 different pieces of audio.
Wow.
So you can go through it, have a look where all these samples are from, but also some real like curveballs that I did not expect. You know, Papa Roach.
Last Resort.
Yeah. The main riff is a Iron Maiden sample.
No, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, samples in, they've taken it from Iron Maiden. They've not, like, the guitarist actually does play it on the record, but yeah.
What the? That?
Yeah. In fact, if you hold on to your horses, I shall tell you. Genghis Khan by Iron Maiden at 1 minute 47. You get that riff.
I wonder if he made it himself, but then he had to give credit to Iron Maiden because someone went, you know, that's the same. Like, oh, what? We've all been there.
Speaking of music samples and discovering those music samples, so at Christmas, Ollie from the petrol station game fame,
Yes.
did this quiz with us where he played us the original or what the sample is taken from, and we had to say what like modern song it was in.
Oh.
The one that sticks out was, you know, Duck Sauce, that Barbra Streisand song. So that riff's taken from like a Boney M song.
Ah, okay.
And like the start of Right Here, Right Now by Fatboy Slim.
Yeah.
So all those like orchestral swells and stuff, they're taken from like another piece of music. And oh my god, the music from next episode is just a song from like a guy. It's basically the same.
Hold up. Dude.
But yeah, I was laughing and learning.
Well, that is the best way to laugh and the best way to learn. So something else that I've been up to in the past 2 weeks is getting cancelled. I accidentally insulted Georgia May Foote from Strictly Come Dancing and Coronation Street, and also Grange Hill. So
I mean, already that you said the thing she's from is Strictly Come Dancing, where you've already got to have done stuff to go on it.
yeah. Started off with Strictly Come Dancing. I think she's been on that anyway. Yeah, so I accidentally insulted her. So she tweeted something. I can't remember, something about lockdown and coronavirus, and I just retweeted it with Thingy from Grange Hill's right. And to me, that was just like it reflected the whimsical nature of that thought. I was like, oh yeah, Thingy from Grange Hill, she's right. So that's what I tweeted. And well, she read said tweet and was not pleased. And then I got I don't know. Yeah, I got jip then from her Twitter fans. Yes, that was funny. So I just gave her, I apologised, because genuinely I was thinking, oh no, I've upset her. That was never my intention. So I was genuinely upset, isn't the correct word, but you know, I wasn't happy that I'd upset her. I was like, oh no. So I apologised, and then someone accused me of grovelling and, backtracking. I'm like, I'm not backtracking, I'm just genuinely sorry. But
Yeah, that was funny that you were getting gypped for initially doing it, to which you then said sorry, and then someone was giving you gyp for then saying sorry.
I know, yeah. But there was someone with a sense of humour that just tweeted, cancel Matthew Collins, which I thought was well funny.
Well, I wholeheartedly agreed, and I've been trying ever since to...
Did you retweet it, Josh? Did you go find
I
it?
should have, though. Shouldn't I? Matt, you retweeted it.
I did, yeah.
You should have retweeted it from Pause It Pause.
I should do, actually. That's a good idea.
So, yeah,
It's good.
if anyone wants to laugh, find my tweets and replies, wherever it is, and look for my apology to Georgia May Foote.
Did you say, though, that when you said Thingy from Grange Hill, you meant a character name, not her?
Yes, yeah, because, I now know her character was called Alison Simmons. I will not be forgetting that in a hurry.
What have we been listening to? Because I've got some stuff to say. I'm going to go first.
Go on, then.
The Aces.
Yeah, I've been listening to those also.
Oh, my, they are officially on.
Are you having it, lad?
I'm so having it. I want to buy 2 tickets.
You a dud.
Give me that vaccine. Make gigs happen. Make gigs great again. Oh, they're so good.
Yeah, man.
Because when you mentioned them, I saved a few songs and I gave them like a quick listen, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna like these, but I want to give them. I was making my tea the other day and I put them on and I was like, oh my god, these are great.
I only know one by name.
This is the thing, like when you first discover the songs and you don't know any of them by names.
Yeah.
I'm at that stage now. I don't really like them, but I could not tell you any of the names.
Oh, that one,
Yeah.
yeah. When it comes on, yay!
I'll keep going. It's me. Pale Waves have released a new song,
Yeah. It's not my
and
favourite.
it's really good. Oh, it's mine. Have you heard it, Dan?
No, that just made me laugh though, because Judy was like, "It's not my favorite," and you're like, "That's good. It's my favorite. Like, it can't be your favorite." I've not heard it yet.
Yeah, I'm the red Power Ranger, not you. So you got to pick a different color. Yeah, it's like it's so like late 90s, early 90s. Like Matt, you said it was like Busted and Avril Lavigne, but it is. It's so good. It could be the soundtrack on like a sort of coming of age late 90s teen movie.
Like Closing Time.
Yes.
Oh, sick.
Closing Time.
Yeah, I think it's great.
What is it Healy influenced? You know, like a lot of the early songs, like you could tell Matt had written it with them, like the melodies and the way the lyrics fit and stuff. They just could have been 1975 songs. I thought, like,
yeah, they could. I don't think it's like 1975 derivative.
Yeah.
But what I do think, and I think this has happened with B Badoobie.
Yeah.
Her stuff's very like late 90s, early 90s, like alternative. I think very much so. Matt is like, this sort of music is going to be really cool soon.
Yeah.
So get on it now.
Sick.
Yeah. So and it's just that the Pale Waves song is really good. So I imagine that everyone listening to this will have heard it, but if you've not, definitely check it out. And just to finish off, I don't think there's a band I've ever spoken about called before. They're called Daddy Issues. And they're these 3 ladies from like Tennessee in America, but they make it's like grunge. And it's great. I saw them at Soup Kitchen
Oh, did you?
a couple of
That's
years ago.
cool.
Yeah. And they've got a cover of Boys of Summer by Don Henley on Spotify.
Right. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, I've been listening to them loads as well. And that's me. That's me done.
Atari's completed that. Just Atari's.
Yeah,
Nah,
it's
Don Healy.
different. Yeah, it's way different to like their version because they sort of like they go a bit bigger, don't they?
Mm.
Yeah, it's more understated, but it's like it sounds really cool.
Sick.
And it's literally just like guitar, bass, and drums.
Zella with Your Boys completed music for me in the last week.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of the Home Fire Records alumni.
Nice.
Yeah.
Radio Harrogate all day.
It is, yeah, that's what the playlist is called.
Yes.
and as well as Radio Harrogate. Oh, sorry, Dan. Continue if you've got more to say.
I just think it's a good song, and I'm a really big like Zella fan now. I feel like I don't like listen to them any differently to any other band that I listen to. It's certainly not like, is this like, oh, look at the new thing or whatever. It's like, no, these are vibes. These are important songs in my life.
Yeah, it's not like you're listening because they're your mates. It's because it's great music. Yeah,
sick.
Ask me what I've been listening to then.
You at the bottom of my screen. You.
Just a minute. I'm going to raise my hand on Skype. I have been listening to DJ Shadow Introducing, which is an absolutely incredible album. I would recommend that to anyone that likes dark hip hop. It's like inspired by dark hip hop, I suppose.
Go ahead, lad.
It was the first record to be made almost entirely of samples.
Oh wow!
So that has been inspired by. That inspired me to get the app where I was like, I want to know what these samples are. So that was good. But then from that, I went on to listen to DJ Format, who also is inspired by hip hop, but this is a bit more upbeat and doesn't make you want to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. Also been listening to the Aces, Zella, College Elite, the Super Late Night.
Oh yeah.
I know what I realised today. I don't actually listen to the 1975 that much anymore. Obviously, I still think they're fantastic, but I think I've just saturated it. There's room in my life for other bands.
Can't overplay it.
Particularly, I'm sat at a laptop for 8 hours a day plus, always with music on. There's only so much 1975 you can listen to.
I've been listening to Animals by Architects as well. Did I send that to you guys?
No, but I noticed on Spotify on the right-hand column, you've been listening to that.
YouTube, it was trending on YouTube, and like they're not massive, I don't think, Architects, and especially that song, it's heavy as fuck. Like, and I was like, how is this crossing over in this way? And it's mint. That's all I've got to say about that.
I think in that scene they're really big, especially in the UK.
Ah, right, yeah. So that might have been why it was trending.
Yeah, because I know they did. What's it called? They did a song with Neck Deep.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago. So I imagine that they're going to be like one of those bands where if they're like really good, even people that don't necessarily like that music all the time like them.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like that. I'm not that into metal, but I like Metallica because they're so good,
Yeah, they remind me of Rammstein,
Yeah, yeah.
And I've actually been listening to Rammstein quite a bit in the last 2 weeks, which is funny because with me new Bluetooth speaker, I don't know if I've told you that I've got a Bluetooth speaker now.
You may have mentioned.
If you forget to turn it off and then you want to play something on your phone, it just comes through the speaker. So Gemma was on a work call the other day when I'm blasting Rammstein going, why can't I hear anything?
Yeah, and luckily Junior is a very pleasant man who doesn't partake in much of the internet's darker corners, right? But yeah, you can probably just tell your own story from there, can't you? Imagine being like a teenager today and you've been listening to music in the living room and you're like, why is there no sound coming out of my phone when you're in your bedroom? And you were just blasting porn sounds at your mum and dad trying to watch Corrie. And turning it up more and more and more because it's still not coming out of your phone.
Yeah, well, the other day I was having a shower and Gemma's phone was still connected.
Oh, aye. Go on, Gem. What's she been up to?
So I'm trying to have a shower, enjoying probably Rammstein at the time. I only get Mrs. fucking Hinch. I'm like, what the bloody hell's going on? Mrs. Hinch is talking
What's
at me.
that?
Oh, Dan. She's an Instagram star, but she just cleans. That's what she's become an influencer for. Cleaning.
So thank you for everyone to listening to the show around the world so far. You can find the podcast at the 975 Pod on Twitter and Instagram, or searching Pause It Play It Pod on Facebook. You can email the podcast at pauseitplayitpod@gmail.com. At the end of this album cycle, we're going to do a episode where we're going to answer your questions that you're going to send in. We've already got quite a lot so far, and some of them are really good. So if you want to send in those, you can email them us, message us on social media, or if you want to tweet us, just make sure to use the hashtag PIPIQA. or also known as.
Pee qua.
I'm going to announce right now which episode we're going to do it on, because I've been looking at the schedule, and it's going to be the Christmas episode.
Ah, sick.
So I think it comes out like just before Christmas. So on that episode, the episode before Christmas, we're going to do Pee Qua, and then we're also going to talk about the cover they did of By Your Side, which came out after this album.
Sick.
So today we are talking about.
There's my hand in Skype.
Matthew, do you have a point to make?
Yes, I do. I feel like this must be my dream. It probably goes under the radar. Would you say so? Like,
Yeah, I would.
If someone said, right, name the tracks that are on this album, I'd probably forget about it. But it's well good. I think it's its placement, but just makes it less memorable. And it's not forgettable, it's just less memorable. And I think it's due to its placement, because it's so good. I particularly love the in the intro.
I think agreed that it gets overlooked because of the placement, but I think as well it's probably like victim of how strong this album is.
Yeah,
because it is a really great song, but I think there are a lot of songs that are a bit better than it. Like, I think the two songs either side of it are stronger. Yeah, it's really good, and it's a slightly different side to like other stuff they've done on the album, you know? Like, I won't really say this feels more like something that I feel like they could come up with as a band and like play live.
Yeah.
Not play live, sorry, like something that they could come up in like a practice room, and they could be like, right, how do we? Because other songs where I think they've come from samples from George producing stuff and then them taking ideas from there. But I feel like that this is something they could have all come up with like together. Yeah, it's good. It's a good song, but it doesn't stand out. And I think we said a lot on the first album that had another band release this song, it'd be massive.
Yeah.
And I think had another band release this song, it would be a really good song for that band. But if you put it between The Sound and Paris, it's going to get overlooked.
Oh, the rankings are going to be so fun for this album. I'd put this above Paris.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Wow. That's that. I tell you what, Dan, that is going to cause havoc on that spreadsheet. I'm going to show you.
I'll come over the spreadsheet.
I concur.
Which one did I say was the talk of the album?
Pardon me in my brain.
Yeah. I think it was that, right? So if that was talk, this is pressure.
This is pressure.
It's a similar speed and stuff, isn't it, as well? Like, it fits with it. This song, to me, was a bit of a sleeper. You know what I'm like? Flick through the album on day one, add the big hits to the playlist.
Forget about the rest.
Yeah. I've now got a separate playlist for the third album full of songs that I need to get to know. But this...
Is that playlist just the album?
No, that's the fourth one. But this song sort of snuck up on me a little bit, and I was like, wait a second, this is a banger. And it's like you said, Josh, like, it's a song that they could have come up with in a practice room, and that's why it sounds authentic 1975 to me in that way, in what I like crave from them.
I agree.
Sick lyrics, like, I personified the adolescent on the phone. Oh, yeah, I don't know the lyrics, but like, what an opening line. I just think that's so sick. It's just like every teenager's been moaned at by the parents who've been on the phone too much, and they're all just like, and he's like, yeah, I'm the leader of these people, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not thought of it like that before, but yeah.
And it's just, it ticks all the 1975 boxes for me. I enjoy the sax solo. It's got great hand noise. You know what I mean? If a song's got hand noise, I'm there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, hand noise. That should be on Urban Dictionary with Daily Boris.
Hand noise is the like repeated muted riff that will feature in many 1975 if this is your first episode.
Imagine this is someone's first episode.
I know. Good one.
Matt apologise for being cancelled.
Yeah.
What's he done?
It's funny, like you say about the hand noise and the big sax solo. This song has like so many of the like key characteristics of like great 1975 songs. It's just it's surprising like that it is a bit overlooked because the lyrics are fantastic.
Yeah, man.
And the everything's like that. The you know, this is for that gets in your head.
Yeah. It's a sick
I mean,
vibe.
but it really is. Everything in it is objectively really good, but it's just not at the level of the other stuff, unfortunately. Well, it's that unfortunate because you've got to have some variety on the album, haven't you?
You have, yeah. You got to take the rough with the smooth. I can't understand. This sounds a bit harsh, but what's lacking? Because there's nothing lacking, but there is just something that doesn't push it to that next level that you'd expect from the 1975. But like you said, Josh, it ticks all the boxes. It's just fantastic. If you got that as stems, you would go, yeah, every part of this works nicely. You know what I mean? As an individual piece, the bass is good. I know that the rhythm section works, you know, as part of the ensemble, doesn't it? But what I'm saying is there's nothing wrong with it. Every part of it is perfect for the song. Yeah, it's not the sound.
No, it's funny, isn't it?
It's a different speed, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think it's like it's a bit like repetitive, the sort of melody in the chorus.
Yeah, but that is pop music, isn't it, though?
Yeah, it's just doesn't. The chorus doesn't catch you as much. I reckon if this is in your head, if this is stuck in my head, it's usually the verses that like.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I feel like the chorus is a bit flat.
Yeah, especially the second verse. And you know, they do the thing where you know the second verse is quite different again, like in a lot of 1975 songs.
Yeah,
like to the first verse, and it's so funky. Like,
yeah,
it just makes me want to do a little dance and clip my fingers.
In the chorus, I prefer the response to the call. It's just got that next level intensity where he's pushing his voice to its limit, like in Robbers.
Maybe one of the reasons is no, I don't know. The thing is though, like, because Dan, you said there that the verse is the one that gets in your head. That's not for me. The chorus is the one that gets in my head.
Yeah,
but it's funny because that doesn't necessarily mean that it is a massive, amazing anthemic chorus. I think it is just that kind of like those notes that kind of make up the call, like you say, Matt.
Yeah.
I think they are catchy. What did stand out though, listening to it then, is that a lot of the song, there's not a lot of complex stuff going on in terms of what the instruments are doing, let's say. Obviously they've got the sort of the textures that are underneath everything, like those like little synth lines and those like sort of pads and stuff you can hear underneath. And then the 1% as well are there as well. But the verses really are just bass and kick drum that are like leading it. Mm-hmm. I feel like the rest of the drums is more embellishment on what he's playing rather than it being like super important to the rhythm of the verses. That
first guitar lick, do you know what I mean, when it first comes in? Like, how can you not do guitar face? Like, if you have... and it's just one of those moments like, oh yeah, I'll probably do something like this, guys. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, all right, man. Like just because it's so sick and like he's just rocked it again.
I think with this, like, it's so 80s, isn't it? Like, I feel like there's a lot of 80s stuff in it in the album. Love Me, obviously, is famed by Bowie, but everything about this could be, apart from lyrical choices, this could have been from like Tears for Fears could have released this in the 80s, or, you know, someone like that.
Yeah, you know what, actually, I just had a thought about why it just doesn't quite hit the spot. And I think it feels too professional. Like, I feel like, say, The Sound or Love Me, to me, that sounds like 4 guys having fun. And then you've got songs where it feels like they're pouring the heart out. Whereas this, I think it's just in the middle. And it is like 4 professionals turning up, nailing it, and leaving. Like, I don't, even though there is emotion in there, because obviously I've said, like, he takes his voice to the edge of his register, it feels controlled. I don't know, I feel like, even though it probably was written and performed with passion, it's a performance.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's kind of a bit too by the numbers.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe
it is that. Maybe it's like all the parts are there, but maybe because of that, some of the personality has been taken out.
Yeah. Yeah, 1975 by numbers. Have we got any hand noise? Yeah, I'll do some hand noise. Okay, right, we've got hand noise. Sax.
It's important as well, I think, to look at where songs are placed on the album, especially given what they've done before. Another thing to look at as well is this song. Let's go on here. It's been performed 18 times live, according to setlist.fm.
That's not a lot.
Amazingly, is the same number as Depth.
I don't know Depth.
Well, that's because it was never released.
Oh.
Depth is like an instrumental song that they played. They played the headline set for Reading and Leeds. And they were like, oh yeah, it's going to be a notes in a conditional form. And it was not.
No way.
Never heard of it again. Yeah, literally they played it at the headline set. And like this song was like named Depth. They played it and all like the sort of yellow notes, sort of symbolism was in the background.
Right.
And yeah, it never made it to the album. So Depth's out there somewhere.
Well.
But yeah, only 18 times live. And that was on one tour of the USA.
What, all 18?
Yeah.
No.
Between all 18 times it was played between the 13th of October and the 9th of November.
Oh, say, I know we've just said it's fantastic yet middle of the road, but it deserves more than 18 outings.
Well,
then again, I suppose you're putting it up against, the rest of the catalogue.
That's it. I think that's it as well with the song, Yeah, maybe that's another reason why it sort of there's some conscious way that you don't really consider it because, well, we've never heard it live. The UK has never heard it live as a whole. Europe, every country that isn't the United States has never heard it live.
That's nuts, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So
what about Montenegro?
I'll just double check. No.
What about,
Canada.
What about South Sudan?
Not appearing on this list.
Okay, what about the Central African Republic?
No, again, no, not on here.
Micronesia?
Nope.
No, okay. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, what did you call me? Yeah, I think one of the reasons is that maybe it's a bit forgotten about because, like, if you compare this song to other songs that take this placement on the album, Pressure, and then I think the next one, I mean, Notes is a bit different because it's kind of all over the place in a good way. Couldn't Be More in Love off Brief Inquiry.
I know what, I really like that.
Yeah, it's weird because out of the three, I think this is the weakest. But it's got all the stuff you need. It's got all the parts. It's just not the sum.
Yeah, you're right. I think it was Jenna from one of either Sarah or Jenna from Name 3 Songs podcast. Pressure is their favourite track.
Wow. Pressure is really good. I think that's the thing with Pressure as well. Like, on our ranking, it was low, but it was kind of low actually. I think you two kind of bumped it up. Let me just double check. I put it low, which feels like shouldn't be a what's it called? Shouldn't necessarily be an indictment of the song. Pressure was 9th.
Was Girls 8th by any chance?
Me and Dan absolutely made sure it was not. Girls was 3rd.
What came number 1?
Sex.
Makes a lot of sense. I know my number 1 was Robbers, but I couldn't remember what our collective was.
Robbers was number 2. My top 3 was Sex, Girls, The City. Yeah, I think Dan's number 1 was This Is Somebody Who Can Watch You.
Which one's that?
Do you know what? Another thing I've just thought. I mean, it's weird because I feel like we are trying to work out reasons why this isn't like one of the ones. Maybe it's because it's the choir that's singing the main line in the chorus, the call, and Matty does the response. Maybe there's something that doesn't. Maybe if Matty would have sang the whole thing, maybe we would have not paid more attention, because it is such a nice deviation, I think, from having that the duality of both voices singing. But maybe it's that. Maybe it just doesn't quite feel like them because the main chorus line isn't being sung by Matty.
No, I think the choir lifts it, takes it to another level. I don't think if Mr. Healy himself sang This Must Be My Dream, it'd embellish it at all. I actually genuinely think it would be weaker for him to sing that line.
I do think it's a good use of the choir. Like I said last week, like, what do you think of the choir and the sound? And mixed reviews from you two.
What you've got to think is, if they're paying for him to go on tour, they've got to make it worthwhile. Stick him in more tracks.
Why? You think they play this song more than 18 times?
Yeah, because it's such a feature for the choir, isn't it? You're right there. Yeah, that's it. I wouldn't have thought of that.
And John as well. If they're paying for John and a choir to go on tour, play this, because you've paid for him to be on tour. You may as well get him to work. Get him working.
It is so good, the sax solo in this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a total vibe, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like the sort of, I think the kind of like, I don't want to say respect they give it, that's not the right term, but the fact that you get that kind of like really stripped back.
They give it space.
Yeah. And it's just them like samples of like the vocal samples. And then it just, the huge 80s Careless Whisper.
Yeah.
Big old sat. It's great. And like, I don't know if, I feel like John has been used sparingly on this album. Or maybe like it's not the focal point of the songs as such. But because, I mean, we know like Heart Out, is it, that's got like the big sax solo?
Yeah.
Yeah, we you know what the sax can bring. And then obviously now in like Too Shy.
100.
Never heard of it. You know what? I know it will happen eventually, but I'm just a little bit pissed off that I never got to absolutely lose my shit to 1975 songs at my own wedding. Yet.
Yeah, just think of it as yet.
Yeah, exactly. I've done that at Dan's wedding.
You've done it at 975 gigs.
Yes, I have.
It's nice forcing other people, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And that's what I think that's what I'm going to look forward to. Like at your wedding, it was, you know, I was your guest and I enjoyed listening to the 1975. But at my own, I'd be like, "Come on, Mum, get up! You're dancing to 1975." I swear the Monkeys will come on eventually. Not Arctic Monkeys.
She loves them, doesn't she, your mum? Yeah. Double E.
Yeah. Daydream believer and homecoming queen.
Are you going to be like, come on guys, shiny collarbones on, let's all get up and dance?
Yeah.
Well, have we got anything more to say on the music for this one?
I don't think so. It's just a very well-rounded piece of music.
It truly is.
If you wrote this, you'd be so proud of it. Because it's just got it all, but yet it's not going to be top 5, but it's got it all.
Yeah, it has. It's got it all. That is so true. It's I just feel like this more than the sound is something that they might have written and tried to give to somebody else. You know, not try to. I know they didn't try to give the sound One Direction. But they were certainly thinking it loudly. But I could feel, because this is so like, you could give this song, the songwriting of it rather than like the production and what they've done to it. You could definitely give this another artist, and it's I think it'd be such a good canvas for an artist to do something. Yeah, maybe it is a great song. Maybe it's just not a great 1975 song.
Yeah. Like, right now in my head, I'm hearing Rihanna singing this. And I know that's a curveball. You were not expecting that. But just think, Rihanna smashing this out.
That's really interesting. I've never thought about that for any of the songs, really. Apart from the sound and, like, you know, I knew about the One Direction thing. But yeah, like, yeah, you could see, like, a girl singing, like, rasping, especially, like, the second verse.
Yeah. There we go. So if Jamie O'Born is listening right now, have a word. Give it to Rihanna. See what she makes of it. Because I think she would do a sterling job.
Yeah, it'd be a cover at this point, though, wouldn't it? So, you know.
It would be a cover, but it doesn't matter. She should still do a great job.
Sure,
you know, if Jamie is looking at his Porsche thinking, could do with another one of those. Maybe he wants to give it to Rihanna, buy himself a second Porsche.
Right. Is it feature time? Oh, shit. Yeah, it's double feature time.
Oh, shit.
Science fiction double feature. First feature, the 1975 news.
Uh-oh.
Oh my god, I completely forgot about this. We should have said this at the top of the show. Right, first 1975 news part 1. Matty released a playlist, didn't he?
Oh, he did, yeah.
Joe Biden has won and now we're all vibing. Good playlist. I think he's got a career as a DJ, I think, if the whole music thing doesn't work out.
Well, yeah, it's probably not going to do, is it? Let's face it. It's just getting by.
But yeah, it's nice to hear from him. But that was cool that he, you know, put that out. It's just a little thing, and it's to keep things ticking over. Right, and I'm okay. So 1975 news part 2, which is something that I don't truly understand, but someone in America has said that they've got proof about voter fraud and, you know, the election and all this about counting votes and all that. The name of this person is Truman Black.
All right.
So there's been posts.
That's nuts.
Saying like, well, you'll find it by if you go on Twitter. So I'll stand just ostracizing you here for a second. The hashtag Truman Black, like specifically the hashtag Truman Black. Truman Black designed software that collects all electoral information and identifies which votes have been switched and which have been lost. So people have seen this and immediately making jokes about Matty. Truman Black, man of mystery, here he is with a robot he programmed with computer skills, and then picture of... Okay, you can't even see it. Basically, picture of Matty in a robot. If I keep moving it, you might be able to see it more. But yeah, how insane is that this guy's apparently... It might be an alias. Well, it probably is. But it's the same as Matty Healy made up 8 years ago, so he'd stopped getting people finding him online. Well, that concludes 1975 news with me, Josh, from Pause It, Play It. If we move over to Dan over there for feature number 2.
Whoa.
George Daniel's last scene.
It's just like 3 seconds too long, isn't it? It's great. Just makes you go, come on. Guys, George Daniel's last scene was today. Holy shit. He's been in touch with Android people on a Tuesday. Thursday. It's a Thursday today. 12:01.
Wow.
I reckon he was putting an order in with a local sandwich takeaway.
Right. Genius.com / the 1975, probably. This must be my dream starts off positive with Matty finding a girl who'll rearrange my world before it all goes sour. So this is only right. The thing is, as well with this song, it's only got 2 comments on the lyrics for this, and not even 300,000 views. Make of that what you will. The song's about touring. Matty said there's an interview with him here.
Second line, speaking like I'm bigger than my body, is apparently, according to Mimi, 2 years ago, a reference to John Mayer.
Nice.
I doubt it is, but...
I mean, awesome if it is. That'd really close the loop for me, but I've heard that line loads, and I'm well aware of the John Mayer song. It's never...
No.
So, first line, I personify the adolescence on a phone. That was apparently the last line that he came up with for the song.
Oh, that's interesting. It's a great line, so I can imagine why it would have taken.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much in that, because it's like he's saying here that like believes that he is the stereotype that adolescents are constantly on the phone. I didn't think of it as that. I thought it was like being so keen to talk to people that you're always on the phone. Speaking like I'm bigger than my body. I don't think that's a John Mayer reference.
No, I don't either.
No. I personify the lack of freedom in your life, and I'm sure she'll be gone in a second. So apparently he says that touring inspired a lot of this song. Which I think if you can take the individual parts, then that gives a whole different meaning to personify the adolescence on the phone. Being sat in the tour bus, or maybe it was a plane at this point. Being on your phone. Personify the lack of freedom. Obviously, like everything's so scheduled on tour. I do think though overall, I don't think the narrative is as conclusive as other songs have been lyric wise.
What do you mean by conclusive?
In that the first verse I would say that you could say that that's quite fundamentally about touring. But then he's saying pre-chorus here that let me tell you about this girl, that bit. I don't know, you can take anything to do with touring from that. That feels more like a lyric that you get from any song about, loving someone.
Yeah.
See, I think that might be a metaphor for like life in a band. So if you take the girl as being life in a band, let me tell you about being in a band. I thought it would rearrange my world, but it takes a particular type of being in a band. No, that didn't work. But you know what I mean. I see the first 2 lines as a metaphor for a lifestyle he thought would have been better than it is.
I see what you're saying. But the first verse for me has always just been him seeing himself as an icon for like perhaps the first time, and that's why he personifies big things like it's weird, it's not direct, but so maybe I'm wrong, but that's just I've always seen it.
Well, I think that more relates to the touring life of it, and obviously touring on the scale they are, being someone of their stature.
Yeah,
I get that interpretation of it 100%. So in the rest of the pre-chorus, takes a particular type of girl to put my heart under arrest, so why is this beating on my chest?
Denial. He's fallen in love, he doesn't like it.
I think that's very well written. Yeah, they are just like great pop lyrics. But what I don't think, I don't think the narrative of this song is quite there. If it is about touring. Why do I wait before I fan you? Can't wait for you, boy. What does all our love amount to? Why can't we make love when you fly around me? Baby!
Yeah, I don't know. I think you could think about them loads, but when there's real meaning, I think we're down with it, aren't we? But I just think they work really well, and it's a relatively light-hearted poem, isn't it? I don't think there's much really in there. Don't know, what do you reckon?
It's weird, because like usually when we do lyrics, I've already got my idea of the lyrics, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, like what I think of them.
Yeah.
Like, come on, loving someone. I'm like, yeah, amazing. I'm going back and forth on this. If I think it's just a solidly written song, or if I think it's just a bit like, yeah, that works. I'll sing that. Like verse 2, pipe down, you're no lover. It's failing because you want it to. Well, I thought it was love, but I guess I must be dreaming about feeling something instead of you. I mean, just in terms of the sort of the actual delivery and the rhythm of those, it's just that classic thing. Verse 2 and verse 1 are not the same.
Yeah.
Like, how many songs are they doing it on? But it's so like, it's never going to get old, that, because it's great songwriting technique. Also, it's never the same. It might be the same device, but the device is never going to be the same because of the different rhythms you're singing. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like it's close to being, I don't know, like a C part if you've got A verse, B chorus. You know what I mean? It's just so clever, and they've been doing it. They were doing it on the first album too.
They're all right in the songwriting business, aren't they?
Look at how the city's like structured. I'd be interested to see the general like opinion of this song.
Yeah, like whether it's like what song's a proper sleeper one that everyone loves, but it's like not that. I'm trying to think. It's the one that all the fans though really love.
Undo.
Yeah.
Undo and Me, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I never see anyone talk about this song, you know. I think some people have a combination of letters that look like "This must be my dream" as the Twitter username. But I don't see people are going like, "Oh my God, this is my dream." Top 5. I think this song is like, it's snippets and it's kind of like stanzas, I say, of what prose? Of well-written lyrics, but the narrative isn't standing out massively. That second pre-chorus, it's a really well-written piece about like waning love. You know, obviously people falling out, but I feel like as well at this point in the album, they've touched that subject before with change of heart with somebody else, and maybe it's just that it's not doing anything new.
One thing about the "won't even get you undressed" line, though, to me that could go either way. That could mean like the relationship's off, so she won't get you undressed, or it means that the relationship is so on that now you just have to you undress yourself for sex, because as Dan will attest, who's also in a full-time relationship,
steady girlfriend,
steady girlfriend. Yeah, he's got a steady wife. You know, it reaches a point where you no longer get each other undressed. You undress yourselves, then you have sex.
I gotta be honest, I've not got loads to say about these lyrics.
Nah, there's no like hidden messages and stuff. They work really well. I think it's about the way they're delivered. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so.
Menswear and stuff like that. It's about the lyrics, and it's almost just like a rap. But this isn't just like that. It's like a pop song, isn't it? Sick.
Yeah. Let's do a final thoughts. Let's round up. Let's take us home on this song. Go on, Dan.
It's I think we've done a really good job of defining it as a group, haven't we? Do you know what I mean? In the way that it is a 1975 song in one of the most traditional ways that it can be played by a full band and everything, but it just doesn't get right up there. But I do think it's a vibe, and for me especially, the way it sort of crept up on me, and I was like, holy shit, there's like another 1975 song on this album. Like really sort of makes me identify like really nicely with it. I think it sticks with me for that, and I really enjoy it.
Matthew Junior Collins.
I think my summary would be hidden gem, but that gem is a cubic zirconia.
Isn't that like amazing?
No, it's an artificially made diamond.
Oh, right. Well, every day's a school day. I would say that it's a bit 975 by the numbers, which makes it objectively very good. But there's a bit of personality that's lacking from it, and I also think that it's got stiff competition. You know, because if you look at songs around Loving Someone, The Sound, Paris, God, it's just some of the best stuff they've ever done. Yeah, great song, great pop song, well written, but I won't skip it, but I won't cue it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's the perfect summary. There we go.
Smashed it.
And this is a big episode anyway. Now, so let's drop into the interview that me and Matt did with Jenna and Sarah from the Name 3 Songs podcast, which I feel we've not built it up enough. How do we build it up more?
They are mint lasses.
They are. Go and listen to their podcast.
I wish that we could be friends with them. Proper friends in real life, where we go out, we go to gigs together, we have fun together. Because I just feel like we're proper connected with them. I can't believe that was the first time we've ever spoken to them.
Yeah, it definitely didn't feel like it. Yeah, we should say that the premise of their podcast is that I'm sure they'll explain, but they sort of like challenge gender stereotypes in music, in being fans of bands. It's interesting stuff. If it's important stuff that they're talking about. It's a great podcast. Go and check it out. They're at Name 3 Songs and everything. The next voices that you're going to hear are us from a few days ago. No. Sarah and Jenna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we're very excited to be here.
Thank you for coming on. It's our first international guests as well, I believe.
Wow, famous women.
Yeah, it's our first famous guests, Matt, we've had on the show.
Yeah, it is.
I am verified on Instagram, so you know.
Nice.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I used to work at the Evening Standard before they decided to fuck everyone over.
Well, why would you want to do London-centric news when you could do global news?
Exactly.
I mean, that was what they were trying to do with us, and then they were like, "We're broke, bye." Thanks.
So, like, even though Sarah left England, she really couldn't give it up completely.
Yeah.
Well, that blue tick's never going away, is it now?
Nope.
That's smart. I didn't know that. That's cool. Seeing as we've got two Americans on the podcast, I know you're probably sick of it, but I feel we should ask about the election and what's going on at the moment.
You can't get into politics, Josh.
We beat fascism with democracy, which is very exciting.
America coming through for the win.
I feel like everyone here and everyone listening to this show is not going to be upset that Trump is no longer president. So I feel it's a very safe space
Safe zone.
You say that, but I will miss him because although comedy isn't a quality look for in a world leader, the guy's fucking hilarious. So
yeah, but I think it's
I will miss him being
a bit
in the news.
removed from him. Like,
yeah,
doesn't feel like a real person to us.
No, he doesn't. He may as well be a fictional character for me.
That sounds so lovely.
Yeah, I'm like, I wish I felt that way.
Yesterday, I bungee corded a Bluetooth speaker to my bike, and I biked around our neighborhood that had lots of Trump signs in it the other day. And I played Party in the USA, and I felt great.
Amazing.
I take it you're not in New York City then?
No, not right now. Well, I had to leave New York because I don't have a job anymore. My parents now live in like the middle of nowhere, Virginia, where everyone's like, Donald Trump, we love you. And I'm like, please, no.
I was thinking New York City is definitely not a Trump place.
Very blue.
Yeah, it was beautiful there yesterday. All my friends, like my whole Twitter feed was just everybody like
I know,
celebrating.
like I wish I lived in a bigger city. I mean, so I also live in the suburbs, so it's also very Trump centric. And like Austin is small enough that like there were people who went down to like the state capitol building to like go, I don't know, celebrate, whatever. And like, I saw a photo and like half this, you know, there's like the street and half this side was like Biden, this side was Trump, and then everyone's just like yelling at each other. But it was nothing like the level of like LA or like Brooklyn, New York, like people just like literally partying in the street.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I saw the videos of places in New York, the people filming out the window, and all you can hear is just cheers and like
honking,
which is so nice. Because I was in New York City the day that like Trump won, and just like walking, and I used to live like in Hell's Kitchen, which is like on the west side of Times Square, and I worked on the east side of Times Square, and so I just would walk through Times Square, and it was like the first day of my whole life that it just felt like still, like it felt like we're gonna see like a tumbleweed go through the city. It just felt like everyone was like, somebody died, something horrible has happened, and it was just so eerie, like walking to work that day and just feeling like the common like sadness between everyone. So now seeing like the streets just filled with like joy and like relief, it was like so nice to just see these videos being like, okay, at least we know we're like safe, maybe.
It's funny, we were recording a podcast yesterday morning and Sarah's mom like walked in and she was like, they called Biden, like he won. And we're like, what? And we're like, it would have been so funny if we were talking to like y'all yesterday when we were recording and Sarah's mom burst in and was like, Biden won. And we're like, what?
But that's something like, you've got that on record. That
yeah, we did.
The moment you find out.
That's cool.
Like, that's
pretty
Oh, well, I hope it makes it in the show.
We like discussed it for a bit because we're like, we have to. It's coming out like 2 weeks after the fact, but we gotta put
breaking
it in.
news. Yeah. Well, seeing as you've mentioned it, the Name 3 Songs podcast. Tell us about it.
Sarah, you want me to do it? This is Sarah's lovely idea.
Yeah, so Jenna and I have been friends for 3 years now, and we met through concert photography. So we have always had like the shared like love of music. And I guess like since quarantine sort of happened and we couldn't go to shows and stuff, I was just thinking of like ways to do something to continue to like involve music in my life. And I don't remember. I think that I was having a conversation with a friend, and he said something about just like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he basically like said something about how he had been like working at a show and somebody like, and there was a girl who was also working and somebody had like said something to her and he was like, as if she didn't work, like wasn't working the job, like he was her boss. And he was like, actually, like she works at this venue and like, I'm just here on tour. And it got me thinking about like those men who like see you wearing a band shirt out on the street and are like, oh, you're wearing a Rolling Stone shirt. Like, can you name 3 songs? Like, do you know anything about this like band whose shirt you're wearing? Because I feel like it's countless times like in my life I've worn like band merch somewhere and some guy thinks he's like slick and I'll like come up and be like, nice shirt, name 3 songs. And it's like, oh, go away. But there's always that like conversation, I feel like, between like fellow women in the music industry of just like men questioning whether or not we belong in like all different senses, whether that be in the sense of being like, oh, can you name 3 songs on your shirt? Or like, oh, like double checking like passes at shows, or like if you're on tour and like going through like the back door and some security guard being like, who are you? Like, what are you doing here? Like, I don't believe that you belong here, and that sort of thing. And even to go as far as like artists like not being taken seriously because girls like them. Which is honestly like why we found you guys, because we were doing research on the 1975 who have like been like lauded as like, oh, like they're a band for girls, but it's like, what the fuck does that mean? Like as girls we don't get it. But yeah, so we wanted to just sort of start a podcast to have these conversations and put them out there, because there aren't really those conversations being had in the open. It's just like lots of girls having those conversations with their friends. And I got into like music journalism, music photography, because I wanted to sort of like take away the barrier between like artist and fan, so that fans know like it's completely healthy to like love this artist, but also at the same time, like they're just a human. Like we need to remember that. And like, there's nothing wrong with like caring passionately about someone. So I just like, hey, Jenna, do you want to like sit and like destigmatize all this shit with me?
Yeah, Sarah called me up and she was like, okay, I was up until 4 a.m. last night and I have a brilliant idea. She's like, we're starting a podcast. I was like, oh, we are? And told me the idea. And I was like, well, this is really cool. Let's just like try it out and see what happens. And here we are.
It's funny because when you say, well, like, you know, obviously like girls like in bands or like bands being for fans of girls, I immediately think of like the Beatles because you saw obviously all the concert footage of like girls screaming, but it's funny how like their legacy is not that of what I say like a typical band that you're trying to overcome the stigma of.
Well, we bring that up a lot, and like it's a thing that we've been looking into, of trying to figure out how to have the conversation of how the Beatles went from being talked about as a boy band and like a group that like girls were like crying and like pulling their hair out over and all this stuff, to now this band that like old men are like, they were always our favorite band. And it's like, but they weren't, because you at one point were like, the kids were like taking the piss out of now who make fun of girls for liking bands like the 1975 or Lainey or Justin Bieber or One Direction. Because even now that like Harry Styles is making like more rock music, now guys are going back and like checking out One Direction and being like, oh, this is a bop. And it's like, of course it was a fucking bop. Like, what do you think we were doing?
Yeah, it doesn't really transfer to other art, does it? You don't like go, oh, Rembrandt, oh, such a girl's artist.
Have you guys ever discussed Jim Morrison from The Doors?
We have not, but he is on my personal list of people that I would like to talk about. But why?
Yeah, because, I mean, I don't know like how true this is, but I think the rumors were that he struggled, because he's quite an attractive man. He struggled with that. He struggled getting with a lot of female attention. And that's why he grew his beard out and he put on loads of weight, so that he wanted people to just think of him as a musician rather than, I mean, posing topless on that album cover didn't exactly, didn't help himself. Did he? But,
I might start doing that.
But yeah, I think that he was an enigma, let's say.
Yeah.
But I think
he's an interesting man. I had a friend in high school that was like, her whole personality was devoted to him, which I just found really interesting. But we've been doing a lot of research on like groupies and muses and stuff. And there's like this famous groupie named Pamela DeBar, who has this incredible story about how when she was like 17 or 18, she was like living somewhere in LA, I can't remember where, and she heard like unreleased The Doors music like playing, and she was like, this album's not out yet, like how does somebody have this? So she followed the music and wound up in Jim Morrison's house, and it
turned out he was a neighbor.
Yeah, so it turned out he was a neighbor, and there's like this thing where she said that she like got so overwhelmed that she like did a back bend like in his like living room. And then his like girlfriend showed up, and then I don't really understand how this led to anything. But the next thing that she was like talking about was that Jim Morrison followed her back to her apartment, and then they were like making out. And then like the next night she like went
huffing Trimar together.
Yeah.
They were like sniffing drugs together.
Yeah, and she like wound up at his like gig the next night, and they were like making out, and they were so high that they didn't realize the show started, and so they're like making out on stage at like a The Doors show in LA. And I'm like, this is like the most iconic.
Jim Morrison, he got arrested for indecent exposure as well at some point.
That sounds right.
Yeah, he's a weird guy. It's funny how he's remembered as just like the guy from The Doors that was just, that iconic picture of him, but it was weird.
Yeah, super eccentric.
So you said then that you started the podcast primarily because you love music. So how would you say that that passion first started? How did you first get into music?
I mean, my story is like a bit funny so basically like my first real memory of all of like me being excited about music was I had like a some sort of relative who used to work at Geffen Records, and my parents had told him that like I was like showing interest in music, and I was like 9 or 10, and so he sent us like a box of CDs, and I just pulled out all the CDs that had like album covers that I thought looked cool. So that was Enema of the State.
I was going to say Geffen Records, Blink-182. I knew it immediately.
Yeah. That Newfound Glory album with like the cartoons on the cover.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think at that time the Early November was a band yet, but there was like some other like emo sort of band. And I went in my room and I put on Enema of the State. I'm just like sitting there listening, and my mom was just like, my mom said that she remembered being like, are we scared or do we just let her do this? And I think it was like, she's not going to know what anything they're talking about means anyway, like just let her enjoy it. And so I really liked that. And then like a couple months later, there's this movie that came out called Josie and the Pussycats.
Oh my goodness.
Which we actually like just did an episode about. I make everybody watch this film, but it's like a black comedy satire of like the RG Comics band. And it's like a satire on the music industry. And what I got out of it as a kid was like, oh, girls can be in rock bands. So when the movie was over, I looked at my mom and I was like, can I get drum lessons? I want to be in a band. I want to be like Melody from Josie and the Pussycats. And then my mom was like, yeah, sure. So I started taking drum lessons like 2 weeks or like a month later. And I never looked back, and I just became an emo kid for like the rest of my life. So that's my origin story.
My story's not as fun, mostly because I feel like I can't remember anything past 3 years ago. But when I was a teenager, I guess I was probably like 12, 13, my friend would like burn CDs for me. She had like Napster and would like mix CDs for me. And so I had like a CD, and I think I think this had like Blink-182 and like All Time Low, because like the first bands that I really got into was All Time Low and The Main. So it's very much in like the pop punk world. And yeah, I honestly don't remember like how it happened, but I remember at the time we didn't have streaming platforms yet. So it was like iTunes, and I would have my mom buy me like $20 iTunes gift certificates as like my allowance for the month. And I would just go spend that $20 on like iTunes buying 99-cent singles. And then eventually I like started going to like, I feel like mall shows where like bands would play in like Hot Topic and stuff like that, just to like see bands. And by the time I was in high school, and I was unfortunately in the marching band for my like first year in high school. And I remember that The Main was playing a show, like it was probably a Friday night, because football in Texas is Friday night games, and marching bands, you have to go to the game. And I was like in tears because I couldn't go see The Main because I was in marching band and we had to go to this stupid game, and I just wanted to see The Main, and I was like crying. And it wasn't the only time marching band ruined my life by not being able to go to a gig. But yeah, and then my mom was really cool. She would always take me to gigs and like even drive me to like Houston or Dallas to see gigs, and then went to Warped Tour over the summer, which is like, if you're familiar, it's just like a bunch of pop punk bands all in a parking lot. Yeah, being in San Antonio and it being the summer, it was literally just in a parking lot, so it was 1,000,000 degrees, and I would go to all the autograph signings and whatnot, and I knew I just wanted to be in the music world. And so in high school I took like a journalism class and a photography class, and so I started writing, like blogging about music, and that's how I got into concert photography. And then from there in college, I studied public relations and ended up more on the marketing side of things. So I even worked for a concert promoter, and like we had a music festival and stuff like that. And now I work in music tech. So I work for a startup and we have a music app. Yeah.
That's a better story than I feel like you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely undersold that.
The festival, like working at the festival was really cool because, so when I was in college, like I was I guess I started interning for them when I was 20, and then I turned 21. So in America, like the drinking age is 21. So that was a big deal because I could go to shows and not have X's on my hands anymore. And it was funny because leading up to my birthday, like the week before my birthday, we were doing a bunch of promo for the festival. So I had to go work at gigs, and it was just like a week of having X's on my hands. And I'm like, I'm almost 21. And then like I went to a gig like the day after I turned 21 and like had a drink and went in the pit and everything, and it was epic. But I got to work this music festival, and that's like what I always wanted to do. I'm like my dream is to work Glastonbury and like be on the marketing team and stuff. So I got to work on a music festival when I was 21, and I was like an intern, and it was just so badass and like such a cool experience being able to do that. And I was like, I could just quit college right now, and like this could just be my job, which I was, I didn't have too much school left. So I ended up following through and finishing school, and I'm glad I did, because that's how I met Sarah. But yeah, it was very fun times, like being 21 and being able to work festivals and stuff.
You say that you've both done like concert photography. So what are some of the bands and like artists that you've photographed?
Well, I mean, I'm 28 now, and I started my concert photography when I was like 16. So, I mean, like the biggest thing I got to do was I did a cover shoot for this music magazine that's in America called Substream, and I got to shoot Jack Antonoff of Bleachers, and it was like the craziest thing, because like that's like I used to like him when he was like in Fun and Steel Train, and so it was just like this weird thing where everybody's like, oh my God, Jack Antonoff's like this huge deal. And like my knowledge of Jack Antonoff sort of stopped at Fun and like picked back up at like, oh, he's dating Lena Dunham for some stupid reason. He's not anymore, but he was at the time. But I had like the magazine had like no budget, so I had to like figure out some way to like set this up so that I could keep as much of the money that they were paying me as possible. And so I like had to put like a really shady call out on Facebook to be like, does anybody have like a roof or a backyard that I can shoot in? Like it's for a magazine, like it's a really big deal. And then hope that like that would like get someone to be like interested enough. And I had a friend who was like, oh, like I have a backyard at my apartment complex. And I was like, cool, can I bring Jack Antonoff to your home? And she was like a musician, so she like freaked out, and she was like, yeah, you can bring Jack Antonoff into my home. But yeah, so I mean, not live music, but like portrait stuff like that was like the coolest thing. I mean, I got to shoot like this festival called the Meadows Festival, like right when I first moved back to New York after being in London. And so I got to shoot like the 1975 and Post Malone and like Metric and Art and Chance the Rapper and stuff like that. And those photos, I actually like won like a photography contest for like a photo magazine from those photos, which was really exciting because like I had like taken a break for a really long time and like started back up again in like my last year in London. And so like moving back to New York and then shooting a massive festival and like winning something for getting to photograph like Chance the Rapper was like the craziest thing ever. Cause I just was like, I just got like, honestly, it was kind of just like luck. Cause I at that point I was just shooting for like a baby blog. And the festival was like the first year. So they were like, oh, like your blog gets more than 2,000 views a month. Like, go, sure, you can come. And I was like, thanks. I still post these photos on my social media.
So I got to shoot, I mentioned like the first time, well, we'll probably get into this later, but the first like time I saw the 1975, I was at South by Southwest and I had a press pass for like my high school newspaper. And I was just like so beyond excited to be able to photograph the 1975 and like see them live for the first time. So I think I started like in high school and my first band that I photographed was The Main. And then I shot like Fun right after that. But then when I got into college and I was shooting for like my college newspaper, I got to shoot Arctic Monkeys.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is my story. Like I mentioned earlier, they were headlining this like arena and it was like really undersold. Like I don't know how big that arena is, maybe like 10,000 or something, but it was like, it was half empty.
For For Arctic Monkeys?
Yeah.
That's insane.
It was on the AM record too. I think they had just
They sold out like 2 nights at MSG. Oh, that's so crazy.
I think they had just been in town for Austin City Limits Festival. So like a lot of people had already seen them at the festival. And then I think this was like in November, like right after that. So yeah, it was like fairly empty. And but I was just like so incredibly excited to like be able to go photograph them. This was like the first, I mean, I guess I saw them at the festival, but I was like really far away. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to be like up front, like they're going to be right there. And I just remember like coming out, it was one of those moments where like you black out, like we were talking about, like you black out because you're like, this is so cool. And I went to go find my friend in the crowd and I was like, I think I just had a religious experience, like seeing Alex Turner that close. So yeah, that was great. And then I don't know, I haven't done as much recently, but you know, do y'all know the artist Mabel, who's like quite popular now?
Yeah.
So when I was studying abroad in Bristol, she played Thekla, which is like this tiny little venue that's on a boat. It's like 400 cap and it's a boat, which was really cool. And yeah, I photographed her there. And it's really funny because like I knew her back then and like I always forget that like I've known her for like quite a while. Like recently, like when one of her songs was blowing up, my mom was like, oh, this is Mabel. Like, didn't you photograph her? And I was like, did I? And then I had to like go back and like check. I was like, oh my gosh, I did. Like, so yeah.
That's cool. That AM, that's amazing. That would be sold out. I can't go over that. Sorry, that undersold. I can't go over that because.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying is like Austin doesn't draw as much as Houston, Dallas. Like those are like the really big cities. So like people will travel from like the surrounding areas to go to those shows. So like bands usually don't play as big of gigs in Austin. Like I said, in 1975, when they came here, they played an amphitheater, which was like 4,000, which like they could definitely, you know, sell out more than that in a bigger city.
So speaking of the 975, how did you first hear about them?
Do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first? Sarah?
By the way, because this is just going to be audio, I'll if you want to like pause and say something, I'll just edit it out.
Okay.
I edit. Our YouTube is a mess, but I'm getting better at it. I started putting videos of things that we're talking about over things so the jump cuts aren't so fucking ridiculous.
We just really quick, we did a watch along of the Somebody Else video, and we were like, right, it's like 7 minutes the entire thing. We can't say anything that we have to edit out because obviously it's just gonna be weird if people want to like watch along with us. And we got about 5 minutes in, and then Dan referenced someone by the full name and said that Matty in a wig looks like someone that he knows. And I was like, Dan, I'm gonna have to bleep that out.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
But yeah, so if you want to just like go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, were your listeners like, oh, this is what you look like? Because you guys have no photos of yourselves on the internet. So were they like shook that you like had faces?
No, we did. We just did audio.
Oh, you just did it with audio.
We didn't even do like an actual watch along. Yeah. Well,
maybe we need to do it.
Well, then it's not a watch along. It's a listen along.
A listen along. Okay. Listen along of a music video.
Yeah.
Wait, what? How do you listen? Wait, how do you not watch the music? I don't understand.
Because we were like,
you did the music video, but it was only audio.
Basically, because we didn't plan on doing it, because we were talking about it, we were like, we should just put it on, and we were all sat there because this was at Matt's house before like lockdown 2, if you're in the UK, and we were like, oh, let's just like actually record ourselves talking about it in real time when it's on. So it was just an on the fly feature.
Nice.
You made it sound like you like signed on to Twitch and we're like, come watch us live stream. We're watching this music video.
Well, you should.
Yeah,
we've actually got some plans for more watch-alongs, so maybe we'll have to actually do a live stream watch-along.
Maybe
we've been planning to do like a Never Mind the Buzzcocks type.
Yes.
Thing.
Josh is the biggest fan of Never Mind the Buzzcocks.
When I was in London, I got to see a recording of that show, and it was
nice.
it was really cool, but also I was really annoyed because I didn't realize at that point that they didn't have hosts anymore, so they just had like a famous person be the host.
Yeah.
And the host when I went was like Neo, and I was like, who asked for this?
Oh, Neo. Yeah, I know the name. Like Neyo.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. No, the Simon Amstel on Nevermind the Buzzcocks is the
fucking love him.
It's the best thing that's ever been on British TV.
Agreed. Fully agreed.
If you need a guest, I'm 100% up for that.
We'll hit you up.
Oh my God, we totally will.
Oh yes, keen for that. Do you want to? I know we went off a tangent then, but if you want to say how you both discovered the 1975.
Yeah, so I don't remember, I can't remember exactly how I found them to begin with, but I feel like it had something to do with Tumblr because I was very big on Tumblr. And that was kind of like around the era of the Neighborhood too, which like we mentioned earlier, like they've toured together. So I feel like I was listening to like Arctic Monkeys, Neighborhood, like, like a lot of like alternative bands. And so I think I found them before, like just barely before their first album was released. And then like once it came out, I was like such a huge fan. And similarly, like I said, being at South by Southwest, I know they had come the previous year and like I didn't know them then. And I was also not 21 yet. So I couldn't get into like the 21 plus because most of the venues during South by are 21 plus. So it was very limited, like the amount of times I could see them. And so they did like a radio show and I couldn't get into it. And then they played, it's funny what I just mentioned when I photographed them, they played the MTV Woody Awards. So like MTV used to like do this like pop-up thing. And it was basically like a mini festival. They had 2 stages and like they played the same day as like Iggy Azalea and like Charlie XCX was there and Childish Gambino. So it was really funny. It was like a weird mix of artists, but it was like they were doing it for like television. And so this was like the first time I got to see them like play a set and I was photographing them. And I'm pretty sure I was like crying and like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And then, yeah, from there it's just like I saw them every time I could. I've met them a couple times, both at festivals and at like radio events. Yeah, that was kind of my history of discovering them.
Mine is way more boring in that the summer of 2012, I got a press release in my email that's like, here's this new British band. They're going to be coming to New York in September, like maybe. And I was like, oh, I'm going to move to London in September. So maybe, who knows? Because like my mindset at that point was I already knew I was moving to London for uni. And so any British band that came into town, I would try and go see them, like if they were smaller and interview them. Cause I was like, I'm going to make friends. So that was what my mindset was like, oh, like if it's beforehand, but it was like the week after I left, but I listened to their music. And I was like, maybe I can have like my editor send someone else to this because I thought that they were really good. And I was like, this is incredible. And then I just like, as the date is like getting closer to like me leaving for London and this is the 1975 show, because they played, I want to say it was the Knitting Factory, which is like a 150, 200 cat venue. It might've been somewhere else, but it was like somewhere about that size. Mm-hmm. And so as I'm listening to the music I've been sent and as like the date's getting closer, I'm getting more and more depressed about the fact that like I'm not going to get to see this band when they're playing this tiny venue because I know it's never going to happen ever again. And yeah, so then I moved to London and that one of my friends, a couple of my friends wound up going to that gig and they were like sending, like at that point, like I used Snapchat because nobody knew what Snapchat was. So they're all like sending me like Snapchat videos being like, we wish you were here. Like this band is such like a you band. And I'm like, yeah, I fucking know. That's why I told you all to go. And like during Freshers Week, I made friends with a guy who was wearing the 1975 shirt. And so then from like that point, it was always like I would meet people that were involved in music in some way in London who like knew somebody who like knew the 1975, but it was never close enough to get me into the 1975 show. So I spent 3 years living in London, unable to like afford to go see this band that like I loved so much because I just was like not doing as much concert photography when I was there for like 2 years and all that sort of thing. And then I said earlier, like I photographed them at that Meadows Festival in 2016. And that was the first time I saw them live after listening to them for 4 years, was seeing them live at a festival with like people who don't really care, which I feel like is not the way you want to see a band when you like love them that much. Cause it's like my friends that I was with all really liked them. but it was that thing where I felt like it should have been like this like out of body other experience. And instead it just is like you're outside after like a full weekend of shooting at like 2 days worth of festival. And like, it just was like, oh, this is like, I waited this long. It was like a really good set, but it still was just that thing where like you build up a moment and then it's like not that moment. I mean, I got to see them again. I think I've literally only seen them live twice, and it was within 4 months of each other in that same year. And they played like a Christmas show for a radio station in like a warehouse in New York City. And it was them, Bishop Briggs, and Bastille. And so it was like pretty iconic, probably some of my favorite photos I've ever taken. And so that was really fun because everybody wanted to be there. And like my friends and I like started our own sort of pit in the back afterwards. We all like put our camera bags in like a pile and like sort of thing.
So
but,
funny story. I feel like this was probably the same year because I went to a radio show in San Francisco that Bishop Briggs was playing. And the reason I went is because Sundara Karma was like opening the show, and I was so obsessed with Sundara Karma, and it was like the first time they were in America, and I was like, I have to go see them. And I like flew out to San Francisco by myself to see Sundara Karma at this like really crappy radio show because no one else knew them because it was a radio show, and like everyone was there to see Bishop Briggs.
Wow,
that's insane that you flew across half the country to go see a band. Well,
it's a thing. Like, I feel like this is what we were talking about. Like, y'all don't want to travel for gigs, but like we do it all the time in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not traveling anywhere.
You travel to Sheffield, Matt, but from ours to Sheffield is like what? Just over an hour?
No, I'd say it's more like an hour and a half, but still, that was a commitment. I was like, they better appreciate this.
The thing is though, like, because it's Manchester where we live, everyone comes to Manchester.
Yeah.
So we've never had that problem really of bands not coming.
Another thing that I was just thinking of, and like Sarah and I have discussed this in the past, but gigs in America and gigs in the UK are so different. And like, there's so much more fun in the UK, like absolutely just way more fun. Like we were talking about this earlier. It's like people in America, like it's almost like they're either holding up their phones, recording the show the entire time, or they're like trying to look too cool to like care. They're like, especially people in Austin, they'll just be like standing there with their arms crossed, like nodding their heads, and that's them like having a good time. And Catfish and the Bottlemen played here in Austin, and I was like trying to start a pit, and I was like with my friend who was wearing sandals, so she was like couldn't like actually like be in a pit because she was just gonna get destroyed. And we were next to these two like 16-year-olds, and I just kept pushing them, and they were not having it. Nobody was having it. It was basically just made my own little dance circle. And then when I was in the UK, I went to see Sundara Karma. I saw them in Bristol, and then I saw Wolf Alice at Ali Pali, and it was just mental, like absolutely mental. Like, well, Ali Pali, it was like, you know, so many like circle pits, like all next to each other. And people just like want to have a good time, and they're like throwing their like pints up in the air and like not giving a fuck. Like, it's so fun.
I mean, like in talking about that, I mean, like when I first moved to London, I went and saw All Time Low because like all of the like, and I hadn't been listening to them for a while, but I like to claim that most of bands that aren't like mainstream radio stuff, England starts to think they're cool about 5 years after they were cool in America. Because I met this boy my first year at uni, and he was like so obsessed with All Time Low. And like recently, like probably like a year prior was when he first started listening to them. And I started listening to All Time Low when I was like 14 or 15. And I'm like, nobody thinks All Time Low is this cool anymore. Like at least in my mindset, because like we had all sort of grown out of it. And I know that they like had new fans because Jenna found out about them later, but also age difference and like that sort of thing. But I went to this All Time Low show because they released an album finally again of like music that I thought was deserving of being performed by All Time Low. And like, and I just remember that there were a lot of like younger like teen girls, and I was like, all the videos I'd ever seen of like shows in England were like super excited and all of this, and these girls just seemed like super like just fixated on Alex. And there was a guy standing next to me, and I was like, hey, it was me and like 4 friends. But this guy was like tall. So it's like, hey, do you want to start a circle pit? And he was like, fuck yeah, I want to start a circle pit. So like, and then he like punched like one of his friends, and his friend like grabbed one of my friends. And then this guy grabbed me, and we like went like that. And we like spun around and started a circle pit. And Alex, this was like probably halfway through the set, and he was like, did I just see 2 girls like start a circle pit in like in the middle of a show because nobody was moving enough? And like this really tall guy was like, I helped. Alex was like, let the girls own this one. Cause like, I think it was like Valentine's Day. So we were going to like a club night afterwards. So we were like wearing like skirts. So like you could tell it was like girls like spinning around in this venue. And it was just like so funny that we did like doing that. And I was like, this would never happen in America. And then like another one that was really fun was I saw Cartel do like a 10-year anniversary tour for Chroma. And I like shot the show, and then I went and I put my bag in coat check, and I just went in the crowd and just like went off. And like even in New York, like if you're alone and you're like in a crowd going off, people are like, who the fuck is this? Like, who does she think she is being so excited to be alone at a concert? Whereas like in London at this gig, like nobody cared. Everyone's just like having fun. And I was like, this is incredible.
Because it's funny, we watched Block Party in Ali Pali actually. And I would say even then we were a bit surprised about how raucous the crowd were almost. Like we didn't, for like songs where you maybe wouldn't expect people to be as energetic as they were, but they were. Like that was a great crowd. Like
even in New York, they like the crowds have been seemed more of the British ilk, but I think also it's like they're an older band, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
Have you seen them in New York?
Yeah, I saw them play at Terminal 5.
Ah, that was recorded.
Was it?
Yeah. Oh, so I thought you were going to say that. Yeah. So there's a recording of them playing at Terminal 5, and it used to be on YouTube. And it was when the 4th album came out.
Yeah.
And so it was like a great set list, and it's not on YouTube anymore. It wasn't the last time I checked, but that was. I'm pretty jealous that you were there because that was an amazing gig. Oh, it definitely looked like it.
No, it was. I mean, I saw them the first time when I was in high school. Like a weird venue in New York. It was like a theater. So like it was like 70% seats and like 30% floor. And I was in seats, and like the girls behind me kept yelling at me because I was standing up and dancing.
Sit down.
And so then like almost 10 years later, basically getting to see them somewhere like legit was like so incredible. But yeah, I mean, all of us left there stinking of beer because everybody was just like dancing and like having a good time. And I think that that's probably one of the best like American gigs I've went to, which I think is interesting also.
We touched on the 1975, but like what's your like opinion of the band, like your opinion of the music?
Well, the first record, like I mentioned, I loved it a lot, and I still do. And I think it was an interesting, like it felt fresh, like the way they were doing like alternative rock. It felt like a new thing. And I think I didn't mention this earlier, but what originally drew me to the band was the fact that they had such an aesthetic around them. Of course, in the early days, they were all dressed in black and white, and that was the cool thing, but all their photos were black and white. But it felt like you were coming into a world, and like, especially when you see them live. And I mean, they still do this now, but like at the time it was like, I'd never experienced a band where it felt like that, where you felt like you were stepping into a new world when you go to see them live. And like all the fans, like you can tell, like they're into the music by the way they dress and like all of that. I thought it was so cool. And I was really big into the second record as well. I saw them a bunch on that tour. And then I mentioned in like the podcast that we did for Name 3 Songs, I wasn't as much into the last 2 records, and it wasn't because I didn't like the music. It was just because it was so different. And I think I was just kind of like at a different headspace as a music listener at that time, that I never like gave it the proper attention to be like fully into it to the same level as the first 2 records.
Yeah, I feel like I have a similar like mindset to Jenna on that, because like when the first record came out, I think I was sort of moving away from like the pop punk world and into more like the Brit indie sort of realm of music, of stuff that I was interested in. And I just remember listening to it, and I think it also was like getting to that age where I started to realize all of the like internalized misogyny put on me by like the pop punk world of things, and like feeling like I couldn't like poppy music or like things when like girls sang them and stuff like that, which is like a lot of stuff we talk about on our podcast. But when I heard the 1975, I was like, this is such a nice like marriage of like all indie and like pop sounds, that I was like, they're doing something really different, and I feel like it's going to change like the like geography of music, which I think that they really did, because there have been a lot of bands who from that have like sort of taken their sort of style of music and changed it in ways to like make it work for them. But yeah, I mean, like the first two records I like loved like so much, and I just like, this is so interesting and all of that. And I mean, a thing that like Jenna and I talk about a lot is that sometimes like fandom gets scary to the point of like making you kind of want to avoid a band. And I think for so long I just really thought like Maddie Healy was really like smart and put together and all of this stuff, and then it sort of felt like after I Like It When You Sleep came out, the fame sort of got to his ego, and like it caught up with him, and thus his like ego just kind of went whooshoom. Because like it went from like him sounding like somebody who read too much poetry to like him being like that guy who's like, oh, you want to go on a date and I'll read you Infinite Jest. I don't like so it went from being like endearing to being like going home and telling your girlfriends about this guy you need to like block from existing. And yeah, so I think I just kind of got turned off a bit after that sort of era, because like the fans started like holding him accountable to a ridiculous degree, and he started being
That's a really good way of putting it, I think.
Yeah. And like he also, I think because of that, like the persona of Maddie Healy that he was already creating became this like bigger than himself sort of thing. And it just sort of turned me off from the music. And I mean, there are songs that I really enjoyed, and I think that they still do make incredible music that's really like at the forefront of like what music is. And I think that their ability to like change and do this, and I mean, we talked about this in our episode, but I mean, it sort of went like, Maddie realized that the fans were following him to like this ridiculous extent, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna make avant-garde music, and then keep threatening to drop Drive Like I Do music, which is like the music I think maybe he actually wants to be making, but like he's just so pretentious at this point that he's like, I'm gonna Jackson Pollock the shit out of this band until these fans tell me to shut the fuck up.
So that's such a brilliant way of putting it. Like, we need this soundbite for our podcast too.
Yeah, I'll send it over, don't worry. So do you think, like, I mean, this is obviously in line with what you guys talk about in your podcast, but do you think that, like, you've had a slightly different experience being fans of the 975, but also being female?
I mean, I think it's like different for both of us, but I think that being the same sort of age group as the band also makes it a bit different, because I sort of like grew up with them, because they started their fame like in their very early 20s, and like now I feel like their fan base has sort of stayed the same age as like I was when I first started listening to them. Yeah. And so I think it's just it's like an interesting thing for me as a personally as a fan, because it's starting to feel like, oh, like maybe this isn't supposed to be for me anymore. But there's also just like that conversation around them of people constantly referring to them as like a band for girls, when it's like, clearly you guys have a whole podcast about them. It's not a band for girls. So it's just that weird conversation of like sort of understanding what it's like, because I feel like they don't make, like when I think of a band for girls, I think of Backstreet Boys or like McFly. Like I don't think like that, because like that's the thing, is it's like the 1975 aren't writing songs to make girls feel good about themselves, whereas like McFly writes songs to make girls feel good about themselves. So I don't really get the narrative. Yeah, so I don't know if that answered the question, but that's how I feel about it.
Oh, it's interesting to hear. Me and Matt have both seen McFly live, by the way. We love them. So
I love McFly.
So good. In America in general, because obviously it's interesting for us to see British bands go to America, like try and crack America is like the big thing. Like you mentioned the other way there, all-time low coming over here and people being 5 years. Because I know like a good one is like Arctic Monkeys. But I feel like the perception over here is that they really broke America when they released AM. And AM was like 2013. So what is the perception of the 1975 in America?
I agree. I had this one friend who's a photographer, a British photographer, and he always told me, he's like, I think that British artists, when they get big in England, it takes them 2 years to actually break America. But I think 1975 is one of the few bands that was just as big in America as they were in England the whole time they were growing, because that first record, I think it did really well here. I mean, like my perception of them, I said like the first time I saw them, they had like fangirls like waiting outside the venues to meet them already. Like this was like the first time they were touring that first album. So I think 1975 is very unique in that regard, that they've been able to build up their fan base equally in both countries. And I think that's quite rare.
Well, and I think that the 1975 in comparison to Arctic Monkeys, because I've been an Arctic Monkeys fan since pretty much the beginning. Like the first time I saw Arctic Monkeys live was in 2007 or 2006, I think. And they played in Central Park, which I don't know how many like people, like it's an outdoor space. And I think it was maybe like 4 or 5K. And then like the first indoor place I saw them after that was like Terminal 5. Whereas I know that the 1975, I feel like their trajectory towards Madison Square Garden was like a lot faster, because I think that Arctic Monkeys played, they played Madison Square Garden like the same year that AM came out, and then 1975 played Madison Square Garden the same year that I Like It When You Sleep came out. So I think that was like a way faster trajectory 100%. Of like them getting to play like 2 nights in a row at like the most sought after venue in America, really. So it's go.
Comparatively, I didn't even really, Arctic Monkeys wasn't really on my radar until AM came out. I like, maybe they were a name that like I had heard before, but I never listened to their music until AM.
It's funny because over here, Matt, I don't know if you'd agree, we end up talking about Arctic Monkeys a lot, but I feel like the first 2 albums over here were massive, and then they kind of dipped down a bit, like on the third and the fourth, and then like obviously AM, they just went like even bigger.
Yeah.
So it's go on.
Didn't I text you the other day? I was like, they were headlining, was it Glastonbury, or they were headlining some other festival in 2007. And I saw somebody on TikTok talking about this. They were like, oh my gosh, like this recording is so great. Like you have to go see it. And I was like, I have to go see this. And I was like, how did they headline this festival when they were that young as a band?
Yeah. And I was like, because they fucking blew up, because they were like, they were doing something that nobody else was really doing at that time, but also had like the remembrance of like the old. So it's kind of like new and old in one. And they just like exploded. But I mean, that was my thing, was like it being in America. And I think I found them on MySpace, which feels weird because in my mind, I like equate MySpace to pop punk music. But my MySpace song was My Favorite Worst Nightmare. And also my MySpace name, even though I don't even know what this means, was like, I think my MySpace name was Teddy Picker, and I don't know what the fuck that means. And I feel like that's like weird, because I'm like, isn't a teddy a night dress? But anyway, I was like obsessed with them. And I spent like 5 years of my life trying to get my hands on, whatever people say I'm not, on vinyl. And then finally, when I like moved to London, I like befriended someone at like a record store, and he found one for me.
It's funny because when that first album came out over here, I would say it is comparable to the 1975's first album over here, because it did just blow up. And particularly Bailey Good on the Dance Floor and When the Sun Goes Down, they were like, my mum would like listen to those songs. And it'd be the same with like Chocolate, would be the same kind of the parallel there, I would say. Yeah. Like those songs were on like Radio 1 in the UK. I mean, I'm sure you know it, but I don't know what the American like equivalent of Radio 1 is. But like those songs were getting like Radio 1 play, and like Chocolate was getting Radio 1 play. So like in America now, what like I would say that 1975, they're pretty mainstream over here because like Radio 1 will do features on them. But like, are they still like an alternative band in the US, or are they like a mainstream artist?
I feel like, so radio is really, this is something that's always interested me about England, is like Radio 1 is like everybody in the country gets Radio 1. Whereas in America, radio stations are like per city. So like if you're on Kiss FM, which is like a pop station, I guess, in New York, that's different from Kiss FM in LA. But like they're going to be playing the same music, but it's just like different audiences are hearing it. So what I remember of 1975 is, are y'all familiar with Sirius XM?
Yeah.
It's like internet radio, but you get it in your car. So like we would always listen to Sirius XM, and they have a channel called Alt Nation. So it's all of this. It's the alternative station. I remember Chocolate was played on Alt Nation, and probably Arctic Monkeys the same. I don't know. I mean, Sarah can maybe speak to this more than I can. So I feel like now maybe 1975 Arctic Monkeys would be played on pop radio, but at the time it was always the alternative stations.
Yeah. Arctic Monkeys were never played on normal radio. It would just be alternative radio, which like you literally had to be on the exact right road to be able to get like access.
It's pretty like substream. Like people don't like, unless you're like, that's the type of music you listen to, you're not just going to like happen to turn on alternative radio. Yeah.
But I think, I feel like Sex and Chocolate were on Z100, but they
might have made it to pop radio because like they were like pretty big songs.
Yeah. But I mean, I stopped, like I wasn't listening to the radio as often, like when AM came out, but I feel like Are You Mine sounds like something that would have been on the radio, but I'm almost 100% certain that Chocolate got played on the radio. Yeah, because I think my sister was at like some college party and it like came on, and like it wouldn't just come on.
I feel like people who aren't really 1975 fans would know it. Like they would know the song. So maybe.
I think finally, can we pin you down to a favorite 1975 song?
Not possible. It's like having a favorite child.
I feel like I knew this song was coming. I think it's a song. Oh my God, this question. See, the thing is, like, when I'm put on the spot, my mind goes blank, and I'm like, I don't know music. Have I listened to the 1975?
My problem personally is that I could never answer the question to name 3 songs. So our podcast name is very ironic. But this is my other problem is I should have prepared for this because when we did our One Direction episodes, I literally had to listen back to every single One Direction song to figure out what One Direction songs I liked, because I don't know song titles. I do think that She's American is the fucking funniest song to ever exist.
Song. I never thought it had any comedic value, but
well, as an American who lived in London, I just find it very hilarious of just like what he is like. I'm curious who it's about. I guess it's like the bigger question of like, what American girl were you like hooking up with that this is your experience?
So I won't say this is my all-time, like my number one favorite. Like I'm not going to say that, but when I would see them when they were touring their first album, this song it was my favorite one for them to play, and it's Head Cars Bending.
Oh yes,
yeah,
that's a great choice.
Yeah, great choice.
And I'll say another one that stands out to me is like Pressure and Hard Out.
Oh, I'm surprised with Pressure. I don't feel like that gets the love it deserves, but good choice.
See, like my 2 would be like Settle Down and Pressure, but everything's just going to be from the first album because that's like what I equate to like discovering them. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's hard, but that's all. Like, my problem always has been, and I don't know if this is just like a getting older thing, but it's always like the first album you hear is always like your favorite's always going to be from there, no matter what.
More
like
special.
No matter how much like a band changes, I feel like it's always like that first record.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's the associated memories with that time, I guess, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
to me, the even though I was a fan of the first album, it was the second album where I really started to be like, and we just did our episode on the sound. Mm-hmm. And even now when I hear the sound, I try not to listen to it that much, weirdly, even though it's one of the biggest songs. But even when I hear it, I remember that time of like 2016 being in my car waiting for the radio to come on because I knew they were doing the exclusive. Like, and you like go into gigs at that time because obviously they toured just after the album came out.
Yeah.
So when I hear it, I just immediately think back to like trying to.
That's such a brilliant song. Like it's just such a big song. I love it so much.
I feel like also though, like that whole second, well, not the whole, but I feel like there's so many songs that I'm like, is this about Halsey? That it makes that it just like takes me out of it.
Yeah. I think that about Sincerity is scary. I'm like, is this about Halsey? I think She's American's about Taylor Swift. I've got nothing to base that on. I just like to think it is.
I feel like that sounds like pretty legit with Taylor Swift's track record with Englishman.
Wasn't it like people tried to make a rumor that Maddie was dating Taylor Swift and he was like, I'm absolutely not?
Well, apparently he used to be like snuck out of her apartment in New York quite often. So
I don't believe this.
I don't know.
Those two characters, I just don't get along.
Why don't you tell the listeners where they can find your podcast and find your social media as well?
Sarah?
We are Name 3 Songs with like the number 3 not spelled out, and that's on like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere else you can listen to podcasts. We also post stuff on YouTube, so if you want to see what Matt and Josh look like, we had them on to talk about the 1975 and what it's like being guys listening to a band that's made for girls. So you can go check that out. I'm on Twitter at Sarah_Fagan, and that's Sarah with no H, and Fagan is Feigin. And then Jenna. I'm
on Twitter as Jenna, JENNA _million MILLION, like the number. Same thing on Instagram.
Professionally done.
Yeah, not like me.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it's been great. And then like being on your show as well was like great. I can't believe it's already. Well,
I know we've been talking for ages. But yeah, no, it's been so fun just like chatting and hearing how it is across the pond.
Yeah,
I know. Well, we'll definitely have to catch up and you have to come back on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep you in the loop for our trivia show.
Yes. Honest, no matter when that is, I will get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do it.
Me and Josh love a quiz. Absolutely love quizzes.
And that was the interview. Great stuff.
I think that went on for like 4 hours as well. So,
well, we recorded our appearance on their show right before we did vice versa.
Yeah,
it flew by.
It flew by.
I could have stayed on for hours chatting.
So could I. But I do feel like they were probably getting sick of us.
You'll be able to hear me and Matt on Name 3 Songs on the episode that comes out on the 6th of December, where we're talking all stuff the 1975 as usual, but we're talking about how the main sort of theme of the episode is like what it's like being a fan of a band that isn't necessarily we're not necessarily in the demographic of the fans that are associated with that band. For example, I'm in my mid-20s and Matt and Dan are well into their 30s. Matt, you come up with an amazing analogy for what 1975 fans are like in the UK. Not an analogy, but you just summarise it in like the perfect way.
I can't remember. What was it?
Well, I'm not gonna say on the podcast. Listeners are gonna have to wait till the 6th of December.
Really?
So go over to Name 3 Songs and give us a listen. Yeah, I think that was a really good interview that we did. Hope you all enjoyed it. So you can find the podcast at the 1975 pod on Twitter and Instagram, searching Pause It Play It Pod on Facebook, and if you want to email us, you can get in touch at pauseitplayitpod@gmail.com. We're doing Pause It Play It Q&A. We're going to do it on the By Your Side episode, which is our bonus Christmas extravaganza episode. So this is how it's going to go, by the way, because I've been looking at my spreadsheet of the episode listings. It goes, we get to the end of the album, ranking By Your Side / Pipiqua.
Pipiqua.
How about that for some bonus content?
That is some bonus content.
And
Just
we're
tracking
working on
it
more
out.
guests as well. Yeah, so send in your questions, anything you want to ask us. You can do it at the aforementioned social media, and you can use the hashtag PIPIQA, aka. And we're going to read all of them out on the show. So as well, go and see Kate name 3 songs. It is a great podcast. Sarah and Jenna were great to talk to, and we're big fans. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh William without the vowels.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Junior, spelled JEWKNWOR. And if we break that down into 3 syllables, that would be Jew, like the follower of the Jewish religion, knee, like the bend in your leg, and finally or, like either or. But if, like the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, Canada, the United States, France, Germany, Iceland, just to name a few, you are a member of North Atlantic Treaty Organisation, you may be more familiar with it being spelled out like this. Juliet, Echo, Whiskey, Kilo, November, Echo, Echo, Oscar, Romeo.
I don't do social media unless it's posting pictures of my bamboo on Reddit. Please see the Pause It, Play It Twitter for this week for my bamboo journey.
We shared it. We had to contact Dad in an emergency to get the bamboo picture. I tell you what, I have seen that picture before, and then also saw it because I went on r/bamboo, and even when I posted it, I was like, "God, that's good bamboo growth."
Yes.
1 year.
I know. I want to know what protein shake that bamboo is on. Because I don't make them sort of gains.
And we've left this till the end, but let's announce this. Next week, Paris with guest, the Super Late Night.
Yes.
He's back.
In
Pog form. We shall see everyone next week for the Paris episode with the Super Late Night.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
See you later, guys.